All right, had a little bit of a pause there for some technical difficulties, but now we're back at it again here. And so putting in our dark medium, using the tip of the brush to guide where the puddle goes. And let's take this one out this way, like that. Now, that one's pretty dark on that, so I might pull a little bit of the value out of that. And so that's a fairly dark value. Let's pull a little bit of that value out. It's a little bit darker than what I want. So this has some water in it, and now I'm just going to come back in like this. If you go too dark, just pull some out. Because I mean, it's not on the dark side, it's even still a little bit on the light side. There we go. I like that a little bit better. Okay, let's try and decide where to go next. Let's go ahead and go and get this little guy here. All right. Trying to decide where that goes up. Okay. The nice thing about the puddles is when you're painting with these puddles, there's a natural dark line on the boundary of the puddles with those, which is kind of cool. That happens when it dries. So I fanned out just a little bit into that one. Let's go into here. That was pretty good. Let's go over here to this one. Once again, trying to establish our dark mediums. And dark medium is a relative term. Sometimes it's darker, sometimes it's still on the light side of things, but it's darker than its predecessor. There we go. And let's fill in this little puddle. I can work a little quicker, just grab and splash it in there. Just like that. This has a little bit of an area where there's a little bit of a concentration. I'm going to pull some of that out like that. Okay. Next area of investigation is either this one here or this one down here. I think I'm going to go up top here, and so I'm going to kind of turn this maybe sideways like that so I can get the paint in. I may run out of paint halfway through, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. All right, so now we're going to put this one in. Now I'll get to see where if it's a little bit darker than the one next to it. And if it's lighter, we can, at least on the edges of it, we can add in just a little bit of paint. Okay, let's go ahead and fill this in. All right, so there we go. Pointy, 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 pointy. And so if I need this to be just a little bit darker right here, I went ahead and grabbed a little bit of brown, and I'm just going to tap it in like that. So at least the area right next to it here is just a little bit darker. If it's similar in value, that's okay for our background purposes on this one. All right, let's go and start filling in this area a little bit more. It's a bigger area, and so I'm gonna fill it in, and it's gonna kind of dry as I go along, right? And that's how we want it. that little puddle part was kind of doing its own little thing there, getting a little bit okie dokie. Tip of the brush is where you're going to have more of your control, and so that's where we're going. If you do notice like one isolated little spot starts to dry or something on you, go ahead and re-wet it right up to the green. And more, need that just a little darker. There we go. Okay, so let's go in here like that. Now if these are slightly different in value, that's okay because they're different parts, right? They're different. Some of it's a mirror, some of it's other parts there. I'm coming back here, and I actually want it to be a little bit darker in the corner, and so I've dropped in some brown. Boy, did you ever. Okay, and so now I'm just gonna make it a little more even, so it'll dry a little more even. Just because if you put a little bit of darker value in the corners, it will focus your attention more towards the middle of the painting, which is desirable. If you focus your attention towards the side of a painting, what happens is it draws your eye off the page, and so it goes leads it to somebody else's painting rather than your painting. And we want this to be about your painting on those. Okay, so that worked out pretty good there. So I have a little bit of a puddle right here. I'm going to take that out. Just by going here, take your brush, wipe it on there, and take it on out. I have one last final part that I need to do, and that's this bigger one down here. But I know I'm out of juice, and so I'm going to mix up just a little bit more. Here's some brown going in there. Now let's get some purple. There's some purple brown. All right. Now that I have more ammunition, let's go ahead and jump in there. Oh, it is darker, huh? And so let's go ahead and add just a little bit more water in there. It's also a little bit more purple. So I dabbed it with a little bit of brown. I realize this takes just a little bit longer. This is a big section to be covering really on that, so it should take a little bit more time to complete that. We'll take a little bit of a pause after we're done with this section. And so I'm going back, and this is just water. Because I had my mixture was so much darker, I'm just kind of diluting it a little bit with the water. Okay, feel free to spin your stuff, you know, on those. Spin your papers. That need a little more brown in it, so what do? I have a big puddle. I'm going to use that as my mixing zone. I'm going to go ahead and mix that in there. So now I have a little bit more of a mixture of that brown. A little browner. Let's get some more water. This is just water. Remember, we're kind of diluting this down a little bit. I have a little white area there. Make sure there's no little white areas along the seams of any area. Just go ahead and overlap it. If you overlap it, it'll work great. Okay, so now a little bit more of that. And then we want a little bit of touch of brown to go with it. And then we wanted a little bit more water to mix it all in here. Okay, so that was a grand dousing of the area. And so we should be able to come right back in here like that. This area is a little dry. That's okay. That's starting to get a little bit of a fan there, so we'll take that down. Make sure we go up to the corner. Pull it all down this way and continue along our merry way. So there we go. And into the water, into the juice. Expand that out, maybe get a touch of brown in here, like that. I'm kind of liking where the brown and the purple kind of mix together, where some parts a little bit more purple, some parts are a little more brown. Didn't supply as much stuff as I wanted. And so now we put in our brown. Whee! Remember, our corners, as per the top, are going to be a little bit darker, right? So as I bring this in here. Now I have another line over here that is the darker stuff. I'm going to paint over the whole show right now, and I'll still be able to see that underneath, and I can come back in on top of it. Okay, so here we have our reservoir in our puddle. Now I can take the tip of the brush, go out there and define right where it goes. This one right along that line. Overlap just a little bit. And then that has finished off our puddle, our areas on this one. Okay, so now here, this is some brown again. Remember, we wanted the corners a little bit darker. This is just water. These areas were a little drier, so I just wanted to make sure that this blends in with this, that I didn't have any little phantom lines in there. Finish off the area. This is just water. So now that I have the area as one big puddle again, I can control what dries where, make sure everything looks good. A little more pigment there. Now it's starting to dry a little bit. Like that. Okay, we did it. We did it. And that's it. That is the background colors for right now.